I'd like to call the Planning Commission meeting to order at the City of Clearlake Chambers on November 9th, 2021 at 6 p.m. As a reminder, if you are on Zoom meeting as a participant, please put yourself on mute unless you are speaking. We are currently live streaming this meeting on the city's YouTube channel and the Lake County PEG TV live stream YouTube channel. To begin, can I please have a roll call?
Vice Chair Coker.
Here.
Commissioner McCarrick.
Present.
Commissioner Wilson.
Here.
Commissioner Williams.
Here.
Okay, so the Pledge of Allegiance, if you'd all rise, and please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So now I need to have the adoption of the agenda. City Manager Allen?
There have been no changes to the agenda for tonight.
Then who'd like to adopt the agenda?
I move that we adopt the agenda.
Second.
So business. Oh, sorry. So we need to vote on the adoption of the agenda.
Commissioner McCarrick.
Aye.
Commissioner Williams.
Aye.
Commissioner Wilson.
Aye.
Vice Chair Coker.
Aye. So business number one is swearing in the newly appointed planning commissioner.
At this time, I'd like to swear in Terry Stewart. Raise your right hand, please. Repeat after me. I, Terry Stewart,
I, Terry Stewart,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support
that I will support
and defend
and defend
the Constitution of the United States of America
the Constitution of the United States of America
and the Constitution of the State of California
and the Constitution of the State of California
against all enemies,
against all enemies,
foreign and domestic,
foreign and domestic,
that I will bear true faith
that I will bear true faith
and allegiance
and allegiance
to the Constitution of the United States
to the Constitution of the United States
and the State of California,
and the State of California,
that I take this obligation freely
that I take this obligation freely
without mental reservation
without mental reservation
or purpose of evasion,
or purpose of evasion,
and that I will well
and that I will well
and faithfully discharge
and faithfully discharge
the duties upon which I am about to enter.
the duties upon which I am about to enter. Thank you.
Okay, so the business number two is appointment of chair and vice chair.
Well, just as a brief introduction, with Chair Fitz resigning and needing to appoint a chair, and since it's close to the end of the year, we normally do it in January. Just thought we'd appoint a new chair and vice chair for the remainder of this year and next year. So you can just ask for any motions to appoint a chair and vice chair.
Alrighty, so I'd like to make a motion for anybody that would like to make a motion for chair and vice chair.
I move to nominate Lisa Wilson for chair. I second.
And I didn't understand you. What did you say?
Move to
Nominate Lisa Wilson for chair. And
Does she have to accept? I accept the nomination. I accept the nomination.
Okay, and so the commission will need to decide whether you want to appoint a new vice chair or leave Vice Chair Coker. And then you can vote on both of them together.
I nominate and/or support Vice Chair Coker to be vice chair.
I second that.
Call for a vote.
So we'd like to call for a vote.
Commissioner McCarrick,
Aye.
Commissioner Williams,
Aye.
Commissioner Wilson,
Aye.
Commissioner Stewart,
Aye.
Commissioner Coker.
Aye.
Now you can switch chairs.
We do?
Yeah. Guess you don't have to if you want to run the meeting from there.
Your name's there, mine
Yeah, we're fine. So we have one item on the agenda. Would staff like to start with the report?
I have to recuse myself for distance.
So good evening, everybody. We're here tonight to hear Ogwen Hills Holdings. It's a commercial cannabis operation. It's located at 2185 Ogwen Canyon Road, further described as APN 010-04417. So the location's been previously mentioned. The parcel size is approximately 21.25 acres. It has 3 zoning classifications. The first one is I, which is industrial. The second one is CB, which is the commercial cannabis district, and then CB, which is delivery only. And we're here tonight to hear a few use permit applications and under one application, which is CUP 21-05, which is the manufacturing, CUP 2021-06, which is cannabis cultivation and processing, CUP 2021-07, distribution, and CUP 2021-08, which is retail dispensary but delivery only. Then development agreement, DA 2021-05, and initial study, IS 2021-02. So a brief summary, you have the detailed packet in front of you, and it's also available online for the public, but a brief summary of the project, it's going to include 2 5,000 square foot greenhouse structures for a total of 10,000 square feet for manufacturing and processing, approximately a 3,000 square foot building for distribution, retail delivery, and for an office building, and 10 greenhouses. Each greenhouse is approximately 1,875 square feet for a total of 18,750. There's going to be approximately 5 water storage tanks. The size is going to be to be determined. There may be additional water storage tanks installed if necessary. There's also going to be a 15 by 15 trash enclosure. And the number of employees will vary. So like a regular season, they may have up to 10 employees. During peak season, when it's fully operational, they can have as much as 25 employees. So overall, the operation is going to have about 42 parking spaces, and that includes 4 ADA parking spaces. And the operation will not be open to the general public. So the applicant supplied a water report. They also submitted a additional letter of support that has been forwarded to you earlier today as well. So based on the water availability analysis, they're going to be using an existing permitted well, which will be used for irrigation purposes and domestic. The well is about 375 feet deep with a yield of 80 gallons per minute, and the overall capacity is 9.9 million gallons per year. However, the report's annual water usage for the project is going to be about plus or minus 450,000 gallons per year for the annual cultivation irrigation. approximately 132,000 gallons a year for the light industrial and warehouse and distribution. So the overall estimated projected water use is going to be about 582,000 gallons per year, which is, there's more adequate water based on the water report for the proposed use. Some additional water information. The water is going to be pumped directly into the water tanks for distribution to the building's plumbing system and for irrigation purposes. They're also going to install a meter, and consumption logs will be logged daily for the amount of water to be used. To help conserve water, they're going to use various matters, which may include, the selection of plant varieties that are suitable for mixed-light cultivation, drip lines and drip emitters instead of spraying, so it helps reduce the amount of water to be used, mulch to help reduce the evaporation, and water application rates modified from data from soil moisture meters depending on the weather. And then, daily and visual inspections of irrigation systems, and then if there's any repairs that will be needed, they will be repaired immediately. So these are just some the development plans that I'll go through. You can see here, this is where the buildings will be and the parking and the layout. And these will be the proposed greenhouses. And this is an example of what the greenhouses may look like. So these are some photos provided on site. The numbers correlate to the numbers that are in order. So these are photos 1, and then we have 2, then 3, and then 4, 5. So for the environmental analysis, staff prepared an in-depth environmental analysis in accordance with CEQA, which is the California Environmental Quality Act. So upon review of the initial study and sending it out to various state and local agencies, including the general public for the review period, all potential impacts have been reduced to less than significant levels with the incorporated mitigation measures. So this process entails of sending out a notice of intent, which is an NOI. It's also published in the local paper. It's sent to the surrounding owners within 600 feet of the project parcel. We obtain the addresses through the assessor's office. It's also circulated to various federal, state, and local agencies for review and comment for a minimum of 30 days. We generally add a couple extra days just to be safe if there's a holiday or other things, if it ends on a Saturday or Sunday, to make sure that agencies and the public has adequate time to review. So the overall time for this initial study was 36 days, which exceeds the minimum requirement of 30. During the agency and public comments, the city did not receive any public comment on the environmental document, nor did we receive any written formal request to be added to the mailing list for the specific project. We did receive some comments from the following agencies: Lake County Environmental Health Services, which are general comments, and those are incorporated into the conditions of approval. Central Valley Water Quality Control Board, it's their generic comments that you have to obtain their permits and adhere to the requirements, and those have also been incorporated into the conditions of approval. Lake County Fire District, Lake County Air Quality Management District, were all basic comments that have been incorporated into the conditions. The ones that received more significant state comments was the California State Department of Cannabis Control. And I think it was more of we replied to the state with the letter detailing their concerns and clarifications, and I think it's more of their process versus our process, and there wasn't any substantial comments. It was just more for clarification. So on Exhibit A of Attachment 3, there is multiple conditions of approval. There's aesthetics, all lighting has to be directed downwards. Air quality measures, that there's filtration systems, that they obtain all necessary permits. For biological and resources, there's like pre-surveys to make sure certain species won't be impacted. Cultural and tribal, that's just if they're the same comments or conditions that we use on a regular basis, as if they come across anything that can be significant, that all work stop immediately. Geology and Soils is the basic BMPs and erosion control measures. Hazardous and hazardous materials, it's the same thing, just that everything needs to be in accordance to and stored and used in federal, state, and local agency requirements. Hydrology and water quality, that they use best management practices and the basic ones. The noise is just the generic ones where they adhere to our municipal code. Transportation and traffic, that they obtained all necessary encroachment permits. The roads, the paving material meets all applicable requirements. Then the timing and mitigation and monitoring are just general conditions about expiration of the permit and other items they'll have to adhere to. So for recommendations, staff recommends the Planning Commission take the following actions. Approve resolution PC 2021-22. It's approving use permits, CUP 2021-05 through CUP 2021-08 to allow a commercial cannabis facility to be developed and operated at 2185 Ogland Canyon Road with the conditions of approval as attached. And then adopt resolution number 2021-21 recommending approval of the mitigated negative declaration and development agreement to the City Council. And that concludes my presentation. If you have any questions, please let me know, and the applicant and or the representative also has a PowerPoint they'd like to present to you. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Richard Knoll. I'm a planning consultant from Lakeport, and I am here tonight representing Ogden Hills Holdings LLC, and I actually would like to introduce the partners, Garrett Burdick, Kim Gardner, and Brian Pensack are here tonight. They may have to step up and answer a question if I cannot, but what I would like to do is, first of all, thank you all for being here tonight, and also thank staff and City of Clearlake officials who have worked with us in getting the project to this point. You may or may not know that this land actually was owned by the City of Clearlake, and my clients actually bought the property from the city. At one time, I believe it was actually intended to be used for a corporation yard, but didn't really prove to be efficient for that purpose. But we've been at this project about a year, maybe a little more. There have been a number of professionals involved in the project, including a civil engineer, a building designer, a water resources engineer, a traffic engineer, an archaeologist, a biologist, and of course the fire and police professionals have also contributed to looking at the project. We think we've addressed all of the issues that have surfaced, and we hope that you'll agree in approving the project tonight. We do have a PowerPoint presentation. It may be longer than what it needs to be, so I think what I'm going to do is kind of breeze through it, but I guess I would like to take just a little more time in talking about the layout of the project, how the buildings are designed, what their functions may be, access and parking and so forth. So with that, I'm gonna start doing this, going through the PowerPoint. That first photo there is GIS mapping that identifies the boundary of the property. You can see that it's fairly heavily wooded, primarily pine and oak trees. I do, pardon me, but I just want to point out a couple of things with this. This is actually Augulin Canyon Road. The driveway access comes off of Augulin Canyon, goes north, and then up the hill to the development site. So the buildings will be in this area, the greenhouses in this area. I hope you can hear me. Is it okay if I just stand over here and talk?
Well, could you take the mic though, Richard, for
Okay,
anyone
let
online?
me go back. I think that's gonna be fine. You can take the mic over if you want. Okay. I'll stand here. One of the things that you already heard is the fact that there are multiple uses being proposed. Processing, which includes sort of a generic category of storage, processing of cannabis, packaging, distribution, et cetera. Manufacturing, which may involve both volatile and non-volatile, and then the office and retail delivery uses as well. One of the things that I did, and I don't think I'm going to spend much time on this, but there are several criteria in the city zoning ordinance that speak to use permits. And it's just something I like to do when I present use permits to planning commissions, is to essentially justify the activity. So within the project description that you've got in your packet, there are findings that we have proposed that support approval of the use permit. I'm not going to go through those, but there are a number of findings that we believe are, again, in support of the project. So I'm just going to go through these few pages here and get to the site plan. Mark pointed out the site plan, but just to orient you again, Augulin Canyon Road, the driveway leading up to this flat area, 3 different buildings. This is the office building, this is the processing building, and the manufacturing building. There's an existing well. This is where the water tanks would go, and then within this center area is where the parking and loading and outside activities would occur. This area here is the location of the proposed greenhouses. It's somewhat removed from this, work area, but there is an existing driveway that leads to an elevated plateau where those greenhouses will be located. And you'll note that there are some crosshatched areas. Those don't mean a whole lot because they just really show that there is some available land for expansion. That's not a part of what this plan entails. That would have to come back to the Planning Commission if in fact there was any desire to expand the project. So I think with that kind of describes the project in a fairly detailed way. 13,000 square feet is the floor area for the buildings, and then the greenhouses will cumulative total of about a half an acre of cultivation area, all inside, all within the greenhouses. That is the more detailed layout plan of the processing, manufacturing, and office retail area. And it's a delivery-only service. This zoning district does not allow individuals to come up here and, purchase cannabis. So, again, it would be retail delivery only. Greenhouse design and layout. That's a storm drainage and grading plan. This is a rendering of what the buildings would look like. They are metal buildings, but they would be architecturally pleasing with outside lighting and cameras and secure doors and access points. All of that is actually detailed on the floor plans that are in the packet as well. These are the floor plans that have been provided along with building elevations. There's actually a cross-section there as well. This is the other main building. This is the office, retail delivery building, and then greenhouses. And a couple of, this is sort of a summary, but we think that the project complies with the standards and criteria set forth in the City of Clearlake zoning ordinance, and we hope that you will agree. This is a photo that you've seen already, but a rendering of what the greenhouses would look like. You can see the exhaust fans, and by the way, there is a plan to address odor. There will be charcoal filters installed on those fans, and there is a way to also add additional odor control if need be. And this is just an indication of nearby residential. There's actually, it's a pretty isolated site, even though it's obviously within the city. It's isolated in a sense that there's not a whole lot around it. There are some residential units to the north there. Let me just point out where the project is. You can see here greenhouses, processing facility, residential, residential, residential. What we wanted to do here is just point out that while there is some residential in the area, I think the closest structure is it's over 1,000 feet. So there's nothing real close to this site. And this is just some additional discussion concerning odor mitigation if need be, and that is also included in the application. So that, I think, concludes our presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions or concerns that you might have. And again, we thank you for your consideration.
Thank you for your presentation.
Thank
We'll
you.
ask each planning commissioner if they have any questions. Commissioner Williams?
Thank you. I do have a couple of questions. It mentions that some of the oaks might be cut down. Will those be replaced if we have to remove oak trees to do buildings?
Yeah, the hope is that there won't be a need to cut down any trees, but in the vicinity of the greenhouses, there may be some removal required, and we anticipated either a 2-to-1 or a 3-to-1 replacement ratio in the event that any trees needed to be removed. Mark, I don't remember if that's actually a condition, but we'd be happy to live with that if that was something the commission wanted to impose.
And I know one of the big concerns out in Burns Valley has been the water and the wells, and I appreciate the time and effort that has been put into the additional reports. I was able to get a lot of my questions answered from the additional reports that made me much more comfortable with the water out in that area. So I appreciate that. It seems to me that this well is on a different aquifer than most of the residential wells, and there's very few residential wells in the Burns Valley area, of which it seems that a lot of them that may be having issues are actually very old wells that have, with the research I've been doing, has other things that lead to them going dry. So that I appreciate the extra attention that was put on the water reports out there.
Well, thank you. And that, just to make a brief comment about that, that's a big issue within county jurisdiction as well. We have used a water resources engineer out of Arcata who is very qualified in looking at this particular issue. The county is actually requiring these kinds of reports on every single project now. And it's really an outgrowth of the drought concerns. This part of the county, the northern reaches of the county, don't seem to have as many concerns as some of the other areas, Butts Canyon area, the Middletown area, where there seemed to be a little more question about availability of groundwater or what the impacts of the drought are.
Thank you. I'll go next to new Commissioner Stewart. Do you have any questions?
First of all, I'd like to also say that I did completely read everything that was presented here, and I was thoroughly impressed by the amount of research and development work that went into this. Basically, the big concerns that have been expressed to me over the years, not just in regards to this project, but in regards to the marijuana cultivation altogether, is water usage and odor control. I believe that we have those pretty well covered in this from everything I can see. I would like to just inquire, when you showed the plan a few minutes ago where the nearby residences are located, generally speaking, I wouldn't be too concerned about any of them except the ones to the east, because the prevailing winds here pretty much always go from west to east. So we had a residence that was about 1,000 feet away roughly. I assume that they were notified of the project and that we have not heard anything from them in regards to odor control.
So in regards to notifications, we only send them out to everyone that's within 600 feet of the project parcel. But if one would like to send a request in, they can submit a formal request, and I'd be more than happy to add them to the list if a project that they're just out of those bounds, if they have concerns, to get notified of when the public hearing, the notice of intent goes out. I'd be more than happy to do that.
Thank you, Mark. The other thing I might mention to you, from my own experience with this in the past, the city of Clearlake does have an actual provision in their development code about the removal of oak trees. Anything over 8 inches in diameter does definitely have to be replaced with more than what was cut down specifically. I don't recall how much more, but as you say, hopefully minimize the cutting of trees altogether, although in my opinion most pine trees could disappear without a big issue. But I am kind of passionate about the oaks, and so of course I've already expressed my concern with the planning department about follow-up on removal of oak trees and to make sure that the appropriate number is replanted.
So you're correct, Commissioner. Any removal of oak trees would have to adhere to our oak mitigation policies and be replaced. I believe it's a 2-to-1 ratio, if I recall correctly. That can either be replaced on the property, or it could be replaced on a city-owned property for a fee as well if they're unable to replant on their property.
Just one other quick notice I might mention, there is a local company, as you're probably aware, that sells native oak trees. They're down out of Lower Lake there. However, having owned a lot of property with oak trees on it, it's pretty easy to sprout your own and just move them around. So it doesn't have to be a big cost factor involved in doing this, and with the amount of acreage that's available to work with here, it should not really be any problem to just replant more oak trees somewhere else on the property. So that would just be my concern, would be to follow those guidelines and make sure that the appropriate number got replanted.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'll go next to Vice Chair Coker. Do you have any questions?
I do not. Commissioner Williams has answered mine. Thank you.
I'll open the public hearing on this matter. Are there any public comments on this agenda item?
We have not received any public comments.
And let
Is
me
there anyone in the council chambers that would like to speak on this item? Thank you. The public hearing on this item is now closed. I will now ask each commissioner if there are any further comments for deliberation on this item. Commissioner Williams,
I have no additional questions, thank you.
Commissioner Stewart,
No additional comments or questions.
Vice Chair Coker,
No, I don't.
and I have no comments myself. I will now entertain a motion to adopt resolution number PC 2021-22.
I so move that we adopt the motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
May I have a roll call vote?
Commissioner Williams,
Aye.
Vice Chair Coker,
Aye.
Chair Wilson,
Aye.
Commissioner Stewart,
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you. I will now entertain a motion to adopt resolution number PC 2021-21.
I so move to adopt resolution PC 2021-21.
I second that motion.
Thank you. May I have a roll call vote?
Commissioner Williams,
Aye.
Vice Chair Coker,
Aye.
Chair Wilson,
Aye.
Commissioner Stewart,
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you. I will now invite staff to have any further reports for tonight.
Yeah, I just wanted to share a couple of things with the commission. So we have our new planner starting with the city in a couple of weeks. So, you know, we've been recruiting to replace Susanna for some time, and we have a newer planner with a little bit of county experience that will be joining us in a couple of weeks. The other thing I just wanted to mention, you may have seen in some of the news reports over the last few weeks, the governor signed Bill SB 9, which essentially has eliminated single-family zoning in California. And this is something that is, you know, fairly concerning to us. It's another example of the state essentially eliminating local control on land use decisions. But some of the key points of this new law is that it allows subdivision down to 1,200 square foot parcels, and that subdivision is not subject to the Subdivision Map Act. And so it's extremely easy to do that. It's kind of an administrative process. A property owner can develop up to 4 homes on any normal lot. Setback requirements that we have are overridden and reduced based on state law. This goes into effect in January. We are coordinating with a number of other cities and some counties in the state that are also a little exhausted with the state continually every year reducing our local control, in particular related to housing, when the housing issues, as you know, here in Lake County and Clearlake are much different than they are in other areas such as the Bay Area. And so we'll see what may come of it. There is some talk of litigation as well as a ballot initiative on the next election. So anyway, if you have any questions about that, I'd be happy to address them individually. And that's my report.
Thank you. Does any commissioner have a request for future agenda items? Does any commissioner have a specific report for us?
As part of the Parks Committee, I attended last evening's park meeting that was held here in Chambers.
Seeing no further business, thank you to everyone who took the time to submit their comments, and to those of you who are watching and meeting on Zoom and here in the room. There being no further business of the commission, we are now adjourned at 6:40 PM on November 9th, 2021.